Zaha Hadid was more than an architect. She was a visionary who redefined the limits of form, space, and design. But before we unravel how a rebellious visionary from Baghdad transformed the global skyline and left behind the most mind-bending buildings on Earth, click the subscribe button because today we're diving into the world of Zaha Hadid, the woman who rewrote the rules of architecture. Born in the vibrant city of Baghdad in 1950, Zaha Hadid entered a world on the cusp of transformation. Baghdad then was more than just an ancient cultural crossroads. It was a city awakening to modernity, a place where the rhythms of tradition met the pulse of progress. The streets buzzed with new ideas, political debates, and architectural ambitions that stretched beyond centuries-old designs. Into this dynamic backdrop came Zaha, the eldest daughter of Muhammad Hadid, a visionary economist and politician who championed modernization and progressive reform across Iraq. Her mother, Wajiha, was an accomplished artist with a keen eye for color, composition, and form. Together, they created a household where art and intellect were not just admired but lived daily. Books lined the walls in every room of their family home. Conversations ranged from global politics to the philosophy of aesthetics, often lasting deep into the night. In this environment, young Zaha absorbed lessons that would shape her lifelong approach to architecture. That structure was inseparable from context. That design was not just about form, but about challenging norms. "I was brought up to believe I could do anything," Zaha reflected years later, a simple but profound testament to the confidence instilled by her parents. Yet stepping onto the world stage, she would soon confront a global architecture establishment that was not ready to embrace her radical visions. Zaha's academic journey began in an unconventional way. Rather than dive straight into architecture, she first pursued mathematics at the American University of Beirut. This choice was far from incidental. Mathematics, with its precision and elegance, would provide her with a unique lens to understand space, proportion, and the geometry that underpins all structures. It was a foundation that distinguished her from contemporaries and helped her think in terms of complex forms and fluid geometries rather than rigid conventional shapes. In 1972, at just 22 years old, she moved to London to study at the prestigious Architectural Association School of Architecture. The AA was a hotbed of avant-garde thought, a breeding ground for experimentation and rebellion against the orthodoxies that dominated post-war architecture. Under the mentorship of visionaries like Rem Koolhaas and Elia Zengelis, Zaha was introduced to revolutionary concepts that blurred the lines between art, architecture, and social theory. One of the pivotal influences during this time was Russian suprematism, an abstract art movement led by Kazimir Malevich, who sought to reduce forms to their purest geometric essence. Malevich's works were not merely paintings. They were declarations of a new visual language, emphasizing basic shapes and dynamic movement. Inspired, Zaha began to see architecture not as static buildings, but as fluid, ever-shifting compositions in space. Her breakthrough came in her final year with the thesis project titled Malevich's Tectonic. Rather than designing a conventional structure, Zaha envisioned a radical, multi-dimensional form that exploded across the Hungerford Bridge area in London. It was a canvas of layered perspectives, an architectural symphony frozen in motion, a visual manifesto that defied traditional conventions of space and structure. The project was less a building and more an idea, challenging viewers to rethink architecture as a dynamic force rather than a fixed object. Though many in the architectural establishment did not yet grasp the depth of her vision, one thing was clear: Zaha Hadid had arrived. Her boldness was unmistakable, a new voice emerging that would soon reshape the very fabric of architecture itself. Zaha Hadid's approach to architecture was a radical departure from tradition. She famously rejected the rigid frameworks of orthogonal blueprints and technical sections that had long dominated architectural practice. Instead, she began every project not with measured drawings, but with what she called paintings in space. These were not casual sketches or quick concept doodles. They were complex, immersive explorations of form and space conveyed through swirling lines, layers of color, and fragmented planes. Her early works were deeply influenced by Arabic calligraphy, which she revered for its fluidity and organic motion. This inspired her sweeping gestural lines that echoed the rhythmic flow of the script. Alongside this, she integrated non-Euclidean geometry and the principles of Russian constructivism, embracing abstraction and dynamic movement. The resulting compositions were cosmic cartographies, visionary, almost otherworldly depictions that sought to map space beyond the three-dimensional plane. I felt limited by the poverty of the traditional system of the drawing and architecture, Zaha once explained. I was searching for a new means of representation. To her, conventional architectural drawings were too constrained, static, and unable to fully convey the complexity of spatial experience. Instead, her paintings embodied a fourth dimension: time. Einstein's theories on space-time deeply influenced her, particularly the idea that time and space are inseparable. Zaha's work sought to capture this by layering perspectives, showing not only how a building occupies space, but how people move through and experience that space over time. Her paintings blurred the boundary between two-dimensional and three-dimensional forms, using optical illusions, overlapping planes, and fluid contours that suggested motion frozen in time. But despite the poetic brilliance, her vision was largely dismissed in the 1980s and early 90s. Critics ridiculed her firm's proposals as unbuildable fantasies, praising the drawings but doubting the feasibility of their construction. She won competition after competition, from the Peak in Hong Kong to other daring urban designs, but none came to fruition. The industry, steeped in tradition and risk aversion, was not ready for her. Still, Zaha remained unwavering. "I'm not interested in straight lines and boxes," she asserted defiantly. "I'm interested in explosive forms, and a new kind of space." She understood that true innovation requires breaking conventions. Her art was not just about buildings, but about redefining how humans inhabit space itself. Slowly, the world began to catch up. Engineers developed new materials and technologies. Digital modeling emerged, allowing complex geometries to be tested and built. The architectural world started to listen, and Zaha's cosmic paintings would soon become tangible realities. In 1983, Zaha Hadid entered the design competition for the Peak Leisure Club set in Kowloon, Hong Kong's mountainous backdrop. The project was nothing short of revolutionary. It shattered architectural conventions like a geological upheaval. Her proposal resembled a massive tectonic rupture, as if the mountain itself had cracked open to reveal jagged shards of concrete and steel thrusting outward. Sharp angles collided with sweeping curves, and planes twisted unpredictably. The design defied symmetry and balance, producing a chaotic yet mesmerizing form that seemed to challenge gravity itself. The drawings were intentionally disorienting. Perspective shifted unexpectedly. What looked like a wall from one angle became a ceiling from another. The club was conceived as a kinetic sculpture, a space of movement and tension rather than calm stability. It seemed less a building and more a manifestation of energy captured mid-explosion. Despite winning first prize, the Peak was never realized. Developers balked at the complexity and cost of its construction, calling it too complicated and risky. Yet, failure to build did not diminish its impact. The Peak became a watershed moment for Zaha's career and the architecture world at large. The project established her as a visionary force. Architects and critics began to recognize that her vision transcended traditional design. She was inventing a new architectural language, one that celebrated fragmentation, fluidity, and dynamism. "The Peak made me," Zaha later reflected. "Even though it was never built, it was proof that architecture could be a form of movement." Indeed, it was her architectural Big Bang. She broke the rule to create an explosion of ideas that rippled through the profession. The Peak redefined what was imaginable, inspiring a new generation of architects to break free from the tyranny of right angles and static volumes. It wasn't until a decade later, in 1993, that Zaha Hadid's radical ideas began to take physical form. Her breakthrough came with the Vitra Fire Station in Weil am Rhein, Germany, her first completed project and a manifesto in concrete and steel. The building defied every expectation of what a fire station should be. It resembled a sculpture caught in the act of collapsing, as if frozen in mid-motion during a violent explosion. Slanted walls sliced the sky, sharp folds and elongated canopies jutted out like shards of glass, blurring the lines between functional architecture and abstract art. Walking through it was an immersive experience. Spaces unfolded like a dance with no clear hierarchy or orthogonal predictability. Inside, conventional corners vanished. 90-degree angles were scarce. Instead, interior volumes flowed seamlessly into one another, guiding movement through a choreography of space. Zaha described this effect as frozen movement, a paradox where a building feels alive with energy yet arrested in time. The fire station seemed ready to take flight, defying gravity and expectation. This project was a critical turning point for the profession. Suddenly, the architectural establishment had to rethink what was possible. Paper visions that once seemed unattainable were now real, constructed with cutting-edge engineering techniques and new materials like reinforced concrete and steel framed with computer-aided precision. The Vitra fire station set the tone for everything that came after, a declaration that architecture could be fluid, fragmented, and expressive without sacrificing function. Zaha Hadid architects emerged from the margins into the spotlight, heralding a new era where buildings would no longer be mere containers of space, but dynamic experiences in themselves. By the dawn of the 21st century, Zaha Hadid had transcended her early outsider status to become one of the most influential architects on the global stage. No longer confined to the margins of architectural discourse, she was now actively reshaping how cities define culture through space. This transformation was best embodied in her groundbreaking museums, spaces that challenged traditional architectural norms and invited visitors to engage in journeys rather than mere visits. Take the Maxi Museum in Rome, opened in 2009, a bold statement of modernity amid a city steeped in antiquity. The building was a masterclass in fluidity and motion, a symphony of curving concrete ribbons that twisted and layered over one another with a deliberate dissonance. Unlike conventional museums that offer linear paths, Maxi defied direction. Inside, there was no single narrative to follow. Instead, visitors were encouraged to wander, to get lost and find themselves again in an almost labyrinthine dance. The spatial experience disrupted expectations, challenging the mind to reconcile the unpredictable interplay of light, shadow, and structure. It was as if time itself had been folded and stretched within the museum's walls. Zaha described it succinctly. The museum offers choices. Each visitor experiences it differently. That's how you express time in architecture. The idea was radical. Architecture as temporal experience, not static form. Across the Atlantic, in Michigan, the Eli and Edith Broad Art Museum on the campus of Michigan State University emerged as a sharp counterpoint to traditional academic buildings. Here, Hadid employed razor-sharp steel pleats, faceted surfaces, and sharply tilted walls that sliced through the conventional orthogonal grid. The building itself seemed to pulse with energy, transforming the modest campus into a global beacon of design innovation. It invited discourse on how contemporary architecture could serve as an icon of cultural identity in a region often overlooked by avant-garde design. Meanwhile, the Riverside Museum in Glasgow, completed in 2011, paid homage to the city's industrial heritage while pushing the envelope of architectural form. Its zigzagging roofline, reminiscent of a ship's hull or the jagged crests of the River Clyde's waves, tied the present to the city's past as a powerhouse of shipbuilding. Yet the design wasn't nostalgic, it was an energetic reinterpretation, a bridge between history and future, steel and glass. The museum housed more than exhibits, it embodied Glasgow's story and structural poetry. These museums were more than containers for art, they were the art. They challenged the idea of passive viewing by immersing visitors in environments that unfolded like narratives of their own. They transformed cities and shifted cultural identities, forever marking Hadid's legacy. While museums defined Hadid's relationship with culture, her work in China redefined entire urban landscapes. Here, she wasn't just creating buildings, she was sculpting the very skyline, forging new urban identities for the world's fastest growing megacities. Galaxy Soho in Beijing, completed in 2012, stands as a sprawling megastructure that defies architectural convention. It's composed of 5 enormous, fluid domes, interconnected yet distinct, that hover over landscaped courtyards and sky bridges. The forms undulate and flow, mimicking natural formations like craters, canyons, and riverbeds. This wasn't just architecture, it was urban topography reimagined as a living organism. Instead of rigid blocks, the project offered porous, dynamic spaces where movement, light, and air circulated freely. Visitors and workers alike navigate an environment that blurs boundaries between inside and outside, between private and public, between city and nature. Similarly, Wangjing Soho, a cluster of 3 towers completed in 2014, echoes the majestic curves of mountain ranges. The towers interweave like peaks and ridges rising organically from the earth. Their glossy surfaces reflect the sky and cityscape, making them seem both monumental and ephemeral at once. These towers are not isolated monuments, but integrated players in the urban fabric, inviting a dialogue between architecture, ecology, and movement. Hadid once said, "Cities are not made of static objects. They are flows of energy, commerce, and movement. Architecture should respond to that." Her Chinese projects were proof positive that even corporate spaces, typically viewed as cold, sterile environments, could become poetic expressions of urban dynamism. They breathed life into concrete and steel, hinting at a future where architecture was no longer just about function, but about embodying the kinetic pulse of the city itself. Her style in China wasn't rebellious anymore. It was the next logical step, a fusion of technology, culture, and the environment that anticipated the challenges and possibilities of 21st century urbanism. Hadid's revolutionary vision wasn't confined to buildings. She extended her creative force to infrastructure, transforming bridges from mere functional crossings into profound spatial experiences and cultural symbols. The Zaragoza Bridge Pavilion in Spain, created for Expo 2008, is a remarkable hybrid, a bridge and an exhibition space seamlessly integrated. Spanning the Ebro River, it unfolds like a delicate glass and metal sandbar, its sinuous shape mimicking natural river formations. Yet inside, the pavilion twists and turns through multiple gallery paths, inviting visitors to meander rather than march across. It defied the typical linear crossing experience, turning movement into exploration. Then, in Abu Dhabi, the Sheikh Zayed Bridge, completed in 2010, stands as a sweeping homage to the desert landscape. Its four steel arches curve gracefully, evoking the rhythmic waves of sand dunes sculpted by desert winds. The bridge is a structural ballet, steel and light and dialogue. At night, it glows with an ethereal palette of shifting colors, a visual performance against the dark desert sky. During the day, it anchors one of the UAE's most vital arteries, connecting communities and symbolizing modernity intertwined with tradition. Hadid articulated her vision perfectly. A bridge is more than a crossing, it's a connection, between places, between people, between past and future. Her bridges were gestures, elegant statements that linked not just geography, but histories and hopes. They weren't just infrastructure, they were living, breathing, poetic spaces that challenged and expanded our understanding of movement and connection. In the dense urban fabric of Hong Kong, Zaha Hadid's Innovation Tower at the Polytechnic University rises with an audacious confidence. Unlike conventional skyscrapers that favor rigid, repetitive forms, the tower sweeps upward like a spine curved by unseen forces. Its facade is a continuous flow of glass and steel, designed to capture light and shadow in dynamic interplay throughout the day. The building itself is a manifesto on motion. No corners interrupt its silhouette, no sharp edges disrupt its fluidity. Inside, 15 floors unfold as interconnected spaces, design labs buzzing with creative energy, studios where ideas take shape, and communal areas that foster collaboration. Each level bleeds into the next with seamless stairways and bridges, reflecting Hadid's belief that architecture should cultivate interaction and innovation rather than impose barriers. Farther north, in the bustling metropolis of Seoul, the Dongdaemun Design Plaza stands as a futuristic landmark that redefines what public space means in South Korea. Sprawling over 85,000 square meters, the DDP is a masterpiece of sweeping aluminum curves, a continuous ribbon of metal that folds and unfolds like a digital serpent. Beneath its surface lie expansive underground galleries that host exhibitions and cultural events, all connected by an open plaza above. By night, the plaza transforms into an ethereal spectacle. Thousands of LED lights embedded within the structure light up in sync, creating a mesmerizing digital nebula that captivates visitors. The DDP is more than a building. It's a living organism that pulses with the city's vibrant creative life. Back in London, the London Aquatic Centre, constructed for the 2012 Olympic Games, showcases Hadid's deft ability to translate natural forms into engineering marvels. The roof undulates like a wave caught mid-motion, its sweeping curves a direct homage to the swimmers it shelters. The structural engineers tasked with bringing this vision to life called it one of the most challenging roofs ever built, requiring innovative steel truss designs, precision welding, and a pioneering lightweight composite roofing system. Inside, the building's interior is flooded with natural light, bouncing off the water's surface and onto smooth, flowing walls that guide spectators' eyes around the space. This venue is not just functional, it is an immersive experience, a celebration of movement and fluidity that perfectly echoes the spirit of the Olympic Games. Zaha Hadid's public buildings were never mere containers of function, they were beacons of inspiration, bold statements that architecture could transcend traditional limits to become art in motion. Among Hadid's many creations, the Haydar Aliyev Center in Baku, Azerbaijan stands as her crowning achievement, an architectural symphony of form, engineering, and vision. Completed in 2012, this structure discards every architectural convention. It has no corners to grasp, no straight lines to rely on. Instead, it flows with a continuity so pure it seems as if nature itself sculpted the building out of wind and water. The exterior is a pristine white skin of glass fiber reinforced concrete panels, curved and folded to create a fluid form that rises seamlessly from the ground. The building's surface seems almost alive, rippling and folding with organic grace as if caught mid-motion in a gentle breeze. At any angle, the Haydar Aliyev Center defies expectations. It is impossible to tell where the wall ends and the roof begins. This lack of edges is not merely aesthetic. It is a conceptual statement on fluidity and continuity, a rejection of static forms and rigid boundaries. Inside, the center houses a museum dedicated to Azerbaijan's cultural heritage, an auditorium designed for acoustical excellence, and conference halls that are both functional and sculptural. The interior spaces echo the fluidity outside, with curved walls and ceilings that seem to float. Natural light filters through skylights, casting shifting patterns that dance across the white surfaces throughout the day. Behind the architectural poetry lay staggering engineering feats. The structure's skeleton is a vast space frame of steel, a web of interlocking supports that allows the building to achieve its sweeping, unbroken form. The cladding panels were custom designed and manufactured, each one uniquely shaped to fit the complex geometry. The seamless transitions between roof and ground required meticulous precision, innovative joints, and cutting-edge materials. As architecture critic Rowan Moore famously said, "It's not a building, it's a wave frozen mid-crash." The Haydar Aliyev Center is Zaha Hadid's signature in stone and steel, a lasting legacy of daring, innovation, and beauty. The world was shaken when Zaha Hadid died suddenly of a heart attack in March 2016 at the age of 65. Her passing left a void in architecture, a visionary force gone too soon. But it was clear that her influence was far from over. In the years that followed, Zaha Hadid architects continued to build on her groundbreaking foundation, bringing dozens of her visionary designs to life. From the striking Antwerp Port House in Belgium, a futuristic glass structure perched atop a historic fire station, to the colossal Beijing Daxing International Airport, whose sweeping terminal roof spans one of the largest single structures on the planet, Hadid's spirit lives on in every curve and contour. She was posthumously awarded the RIBA Gold Medal, one of architecture's highest honors, a recognition of her unparalleled contribution to the discipline. But her true legacy extends beyond accolades. It lies in the countless architects inspired by her fearless approach, the new generation who refuse to settle for boxes and grids, who now see architecture as an opportunity to explore fluidity, movement, and freedom. Zaha once said, "There are 360 degrees, so why stick to one?" This mantra encapsulates her career, a relentless quest to break free from convention, to rethink space, and to redraw the boundaries of possibility. She didn't just break the mold, she erased it entirely and drew the future in sweeping curves and endless possibilities. Which Zaha Hadid building challenged your idea of what architecture can be? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching this video with us, and catch you in the next one.